Hello everybody, today we'll be talking about the Montreal Canadiens and, where they're headed. Is this a new era for Montreal? Now before we start, please make sure to like this video and subscribe. Now let's get to it. So, the Habs had their magical run to the Stanley Cup Finals this year after having a pretty mediocre regular season. But is this going to be a norm for them? Well, if we see what we saw from the team in the regular season, probably not, but the playoffs obviously were different. Now, they didn't outplay teams too much in the playoffs, I think, especially some rounds, and there was luck, but I will say Carey Price and the PK were really good, and they were huge factors for how Montreal was able to get there. And yes, they did beat some quality teams. Toronto, they beat Winnipeg, which I think is a good team, and Vegas, which is a favorite to win the Stanley Cup every year, so they can't be overlooked. Now, this was a refreshing season for fans of the Quebec team, because the playoff run showed that they could beat quality teams in the league when necessary. Now, yes, it was out of the blue, but maybe this playoff run takes a little bit pressure off for them in the organization, because think about it. Going back to 1993, they had made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. They do it this year. Yes, they didn't win it, but they were able to say, hey, we got this far. We have some talent, and we can make some things happen. And yeah, I mean, it was tough, but you do have some young players to look forward to. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield are the ones that I really wanted to focus on for this video, as they got a ton of great experience in this playoff run. And they were able to do it against some pretty good teams. Now, in the playoffs, they outscored teams 16-14, and this looks to be a great connection in the coming years, which could lead to many great things for the Canadiens. Now, considering these two only got to play together 36 minutes in the regular season, this playoff run was exactly what they needed to get that, that connection going a little bit more. And it's crazy to think that had they lost in Game 5 against Toronto, we wouldn't have got all that extra experience for them. Now, the Stanley Cup Finals stings. I get it. That loss will always hurt, but there are still some positives to take away for this if you are a Habs fan. Now, they can't do everything themselves. We all know that. And if they want to make deep pushes, you have to have other guys step up. So who are those guys going to be? Josh Anderson, Christian Dvorak, and David Savard are three names that come to mind for me. Now, Josh Anderson is a guy I'm very familiar with, and I don't think that he lived up to his $5.5 million cap hit last year. And going forward, he's got to, because Montreal needs him. They have to have him. Now, he is on contract for 6 more years and is a player that looks to probably, hopefully, be a key player for them. I don't know if he's going to be all in their long-term future, because I don't know. It's unpredictable, but they gave him the big contract, the long-term deal. And with that kind of money, you expect him to step up. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that 2018-19 Josh Anderson might have been the peak for his career. Going forward, I don't know, that contract could become a little bit of a burden, and time will tell. Now, if Josh gets back to those days, and I could see him becoming a fan favorite in Montreal, he plays a powerful, gritty, power forward role, and fans like that. He can score goals, he can get in fights, he can lay big hits. He is a guy that is really easy to root for. Now, you have to talk about Christian Dvorak, and I wouldn't normally put a lot of expectations around him, but with Montreal giving up a first and second round pick for him, it's got to be there. It's got to be there for him almost right away. I would consider him a third-line center on a contending team, but he's got to produce at least a second-line rate if he wants to avoid the Montreal and Canadian media from crashing down on him. Now, he's not a player that, at least so far, I would have ever said, hey, he's got to shoulder this much of the load in terms of expectations. But with the pieces Mark Bergevin gave up for him, it's going to have to happen. He's very young and promising, I will say that. I don't want anybody to say, oh, you think he's terrible. I don't think he's terrible. I think he is a young and promising player. And there's a chance that maybe he lives up to this trade, but going forward, we'll have to see that. Is he going to be the guy? Is he going to be one of those top 2 centers that leads a line and gets them to win a Stanley Cup or multiple? Now, finally, we have David Savard, and he's a guy that I know well. He played 597 games with the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on this. I think that he is a guy that is 30-some days away from being 31. He has seen better days, but when you get a 4-year, $13 million contract, you just have to live up to it. You can't really use an excuse if you're a Montreal fan in the sense of, it's a feel-good thing or anything, and I don't think they will. I just think that it's it was a weird deal for him to get. And I worry about this deal for Montreal due to Savard's offensive game just disappearing into thin air over the past 2 years. Now, maybe Bergevin sees something that I don't. Savard is a very experienced defenseman, and he has played big games before. He really has. And Mark likes the way he plays. It's understandable. Maybe he views him as a top 4 defensive defenseman like they could use. Now, he is projected to pair with the exciting young blue liner Alexander Romanov. I don't have high hopes for them as an offensive pairing, but I do think defensively they could be a pretty stout pairing next year. If he finds his offensive game, that being Savard, then this could be a pretty good pairing, not top 20 or anything like that. I wouldn't expect them to, but I would have high hopes for them. Now, will he be worth $3.25 million annually? I don't know. But I do think he could be a fan favorite. He plays a good defensive game. He is from Quebec. So, Montreal fans, maybe he'll be a guy that you'd want to buy his jersey. Now, if these 3 players get the production that they would ideally like to get from them, then yes, Montreal will be in a great spot to make the playoffs next year. However, do I see them being contenders in the coming years? No, I don't. I don't think that the last year will usher in a new era for Montreal, especially this season. While Montreal has not been a bottom feeder in the league, I realistically think that the highest that they will finish in this division will be 4th or 5th. I gotta be honest here. Now, it's not to say this team could make another run in the playoffs. They could, but I don't think this year they'll be nearly as successful as they were last year. In terms of postseason success, I could see them missing. We'll have to see. Although, I do think Montreal fans, before you get mad, understand, I think Cole Caulfield has a great shot at winning the Calder. Now, do you think that this is the new norm for the Canadiens making deep playoff runs? Let me know down below. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Everybody stay safe. Have a great night. You go love hockey, alright? Goodbye, Brigadiers and Brigadettes. This is your captain signing off. Have a great night.